let's talk about the history of where this little weirdo came from. Like Krampus, Belsnickel, and the unmentionable Black Peter, elves belong to Santa's rogues gallery, as I like to call it. Really, the whole cast of characters in the Santa expanded universe is vast and has roots far more ancient than most modern religions. For Christmas elves, you have to go back to ancient Norse and the Alfar, also known as Huldafolk, hidden folk. These were beautiful, fair, mysterious spirits that were believed to live among us hidden. They were associated with mischief and seduction. It was very common to leave sacrifices and offerings to them to gain their favor. In the pre-medieval era, as the Vikings started to invade and mix with the Celts and Germanic people, the belief in elves and the Fairies started to intermingle, and we get the elf corridor. Now, across this region, you'll find all kinds of home-dwelling, often small, sometimes sexy, mischief makers that you had to placate, or they would do Lord knows what to you, your family, or your livestock, such as stealing away your baby back to their goblin kingdom and leaving a changeling. In Germany, these household guardian spirits were called kobolds. In Scotland, they were called brownies. In the Netherlands, you might hear nisse. In Sweden, tomte. But they were all very similar, kind of strange demigods. By the medieval era, as the church started to adopt and remix many pagan beliefs to help with recruitment, like the winter solstice Yuletide, beliefs in elves carried along with all of that. Like in the Old English Beowulf, it is explained that elves were descendants of Cain, Adam's deadbeat son. By the time of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, elves and fairies had firmly split into two camps, with fairies staying kinda sexy and elves becoming playful little creatures like Puck. But belief in them carried on, especially in the more northern and pagan reaches. In Scotland, firm belief in brownies was recorded well into the late 1700s, and even further north in Iceland, the Norse and Celtic beliefs mixed into a complex elf mythology that is still kind of around today. This includes the Yule Lads, a group of elven creatures who come down from the mountains one by one on the days leading up to Christmas. They are tasked with spying on the children to judge if they were good or bad. If the children are good, they leave candy in their shoes. Bad, the Yule Lad's mother, the witch Grilla, boils the naughty children alive. That's right, they boil the naughty children alive. This tradition was deemed so extreme that it was banned for a time in the country. In 1812, inspired by a little bit of all of this, the Brothers Grimm wrote The Elves and the Shoemaker, a story about a cobbler who's assisted by elves each night to help with his Christmas orders. This is probably the earliest direct linkage that we can find between elves, a workshop, and Christmas. Throughout the 1800s, the mythology of Santa Claus starts to click into place as American writers like Washington Irving and Clement Clarke Moore build off the traditions of Dutch and German immigrants. In Moore's The Visit from St. Nicholas from 1823, meaning it's celebrating its 200th anniversary, this is the poem that everyone now calls 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, but it's actually The Visit from St. Nicholas. The story kind of lays out much of the modern Santa Claus as we now know him, but he also adds in that little tidbit that people tend to overlook, that Santa himself is an elf, a very big elf. 1856, Louisa May Alcott of Little Women fame, which also has a whole Christmas scene in it. This would be the first literary mention of that term, which often makes people credit her with the invention of the idea of Christmas elves, which would be great if that story was ever published, which it wasn't. It's Harper's Weekly that gets the prize for the first fully formed mention of elves toiling away in Santa's workshop in 1857 in a story called The Wonders of Santa Claus. After that, Santa's elves are pretty much entrenched in the holiday right alongside the big man himself. By the 1920s and the 30s, they are so mainstream they appear in a Norman Rockwell painting and a Walt Disney cartoon. Funny enough, this is also the time that J.R.R. Tolkien is writing and reintroducing the ideas of elves being tall, fair demigods from ancient Norse. So, now I hope you can see all the cultural influences that came together to create a magical elf under the ploy of Santa that lives in your home watching you, and every night causes mischief. Even if he feels like he's been around for generations, which is probably because he's built on all this ancient tradition, the elf on the shelf was only unleashed on the world in 2004, when a teacher named Carol Ebersold and her daughters wrote a book about their family tradition of shaming children into good behavior. But remember, if you choose to welcome this shelf elf into your house, you are also opening the doors to the Fae, the Tuatha De Danann, the Dark Ones, the Holdra, the Dalkafar. Watch your infants, tie up your livestock, and fear the coming of the long winter's night.